Picture this. You get an alert on your phone from your favorite fan blog. You can't believe it. After years of rereading your favorite series 1,000 times, decorating your room to show off your fandom, and spending time on 3 subreddits specific to the series, it happened. They are finally turning your favorite book into a film. You've dreamt this. You've discussed this endlessly. You've told everyone that it could happen, despite screams from cynical fans saying it's an unadaptable novel. After years of that, you're staring right at a YouTube teaser for the film, and it looks good. This scene happens all the time, thanks to Hollywood's ever-growing reliance on adaptations. And despite the conversation among fans usually beginning with, "the book was better," fantasy adaptation can have a huge upside for a fandom. So where did this trend of adaptation start? Why has it only grown in popularity over the past decade? And most importantly, what makes a good adaptation? To understand why Hollywood relies so heavily on the fantasy genre, we need to start at the beginning. No, that's too far. Let's start at the beginning of movies. Cinema began in 1878 with the English-American photographer Edward Muybridge. A photographer of the Old West, Muybridge stumbled into the creation of moving pictures after trying to answer a popular debate at the time. Do all 4 feet of a horse lift off the ground at the same time while running? Muybridge decided to set up 12 cameras, side by side, and capture a horse in a gallop, taking photos sequentially. When the photos were viewed in rapid succession, he discovered that the human brain filled in the gaps between the photos, making the horse look as if it was running in real time, despite only being 12 photos in the sequence. And because I know you're all dying to know, yes, all 4 feet of a horse are indeed off the ground at a certain point in a gallop. Muybridge then began experimenting with this process, even going so far as to create the zoopraxiscope, a way of viewing motion pictures that predates projection. From there, people began to experiment with moving images until the inevitable happened. People started telling stories. While the Lumiere brothers are credited with some of the first films that were widely available, perhaps the most important voice in early film was the French magician Georges Méliès. Méliès began combining the new storytelling medium of movies with his expertise in illusions, and voila! Special effects were born. Méliès naturally began using these techniques to tell fantastical stories, and in 1899, he would create what is widely regarded as the first film adaptation with Cinderella. This silent 8-minute version contains the story we all know and love, and features quite a lot of special effects. Impressive what they could pull off in 1899. From here, Méliès would go on to loosely adapt the story of Sleeping Beauty into a film titled The Kingdom of the Fairies, which transports the audience to a fantasy world. The technique of adaptation, and specifically fantasy adaptations, is ingrained so deeply into the history of cinema, it's no surprise that Hollywood is still looking to fantasy for amazing stories nearly 120 years later. And amazing stories they've found. Since the smashing success of the Lord of the Rings trilogy of films, studios have searched over and over for the next big fantasy story. This trend is seemingly growing every year. In addition to these stories just being awesome, there's a strong incentive for film studios to explore popular fantasy novels. It's because adaptation comes with a built-in audience. These are the fans who have been dying to see their favorite characters and places come to life on the silver screen. An original idea might be compelling, but there are so many intricacies in how a film is received by audiences that success is far from a sure thing. Also, filmmaking is expensive, so movie studios do what they can to minimize their risk. And telling a story that already has droves of fans buying tickets to boost that opening weekend number is a very good way to make success a bit more of an achievable goal. That's not to say that adaptations are cynical cash grabs. There are a lot of artists involved in bringing an adaptation to life that care about the work. Take the Mortal Instruments series. In 2013, the first book in the series was adapted into the Mortal Instruments' City of Bones. The film stayed pretty faithful to the books, but failed to find a wider audience. According to Box Office Mojo, the film made an opening weekend gross of only $9 million against a budget of around $60 million. The planned franchise was put to bed, but soon after, a TV adaptation popped up titled Shadowhunters. This adaptation made changes to the story, which it only followed in fairly broad strokes. It sought a wider audience and ratings were strong. Ratings eventually fell, and after a 4-season run, the series was canceled. However, it established a strong fan base that petitioned for it after it was done. And this is the benefit of adapting literature for the big screen. It makes fandoms even bigger by offering a gateway to fantasy for reluctant readers. For the Shadowhunter Chronicles, the fan base grew through its adaptations. Adaptation has the power to put new eyes onto a series in ways simple marketing or word of mouth can't. Numerous series have experienced this, and the fandoms have grown exponentially. We saw it with His Dark Materials, when Philip Pullman's epics were first brought to the big screen and later TV. Casting news alone for Shadow and Bone blew up across the internet. Of course, adapting fantasy comes with its own set of challenges. Deciding how true to stay to the original story, budgeting for epic special effects. What to do when the TV needs an ending but the author hasn't finished the series yet. Looking at you, George. But those challenges are what many fans love to engage with, spending many hours in message boards or watching actors speak at Comic-Con panels in hopes they'll reveal a secret about the sequel. The point is, good or bad, the adaptation of fantasy literature gives us larger communities to be a part of, and more thriving fandoms to explore. And when it comes to fantasy, it's always better to have more. Thanks so much for watching. Let us know what your favorite fantasy adaptation is. What fantasy novels deserve an adaptation, or even a second shot?